Okay, today we're going to be looking at the Gundam Arsenal Base guide part 2, I guess. I think that's what I'll call it. Today I'm going to do a video about some of the quote-unquote best cards in the game. The best units, cards, pilots, all that good stuff. So, once again, I wrote up a small guide, and I will be putting the link to it in the description of the video for my English friends out there who are curious about what the meta is of this game, what cards are useful, blah blah blah. And I'm going to be going season by season. That is how I categorize things, and the newest season is Link Stage Season 1. It started in February. It is now mid-March, so Link Stage Season 1 has been around for almost 1 month. Almost, not quite 1 month yet, but we're getting there. Anyway, let's jump in here. So, part 2, like I said, is going to highlight the best or most commonly used high-ranking cards by the player base. This game has multiple seasons of cards, and as it gets some updates, balance changes, or simply has more options between pilots and mobile suits, the general ideas and what is best, it kind of shifts with it. Usually, the best team is focused more on the current cards in the season, but not always, and we will definitely see some highlights of that as we go. My biggest advice is to keep trying cards and formations that you are personally interested in. This game has a lot of cards, it has lots of units, it has lots of series from the Gundam franchise for Gundam fans to explore and use, so don't take the highest ranking players on Twitter or in the rankings on like the arcade machine itself or the tournament standings that they upload on YouTube or the videos that they do. Don't take those as absolute, because player skill, players reading the situation well, players having their own ideas and kind of maximizing what is best in the game or what is best for their playstyle is definitely a factor. That said, this game can be pretty stiff in the ideas that the formations of the higher ranking players, usually those decks, those sets of cards are very, very strong. Usually they are. And they're very strong for a reason. They have good stats, they have good abilities, and the highest ranking players have taken note of the best things and kind of made a team around it. But once again, there is some leeway here, and unless you're playing this game to be the #1 in Japan, you don't really have to worry about it that much. Unless you want like 100% win ratio, then you're really going to have to worry about the meta cards and your playstyle and whatnot, but that's a whole different thing. But like I said, the highest ranking teams are pretty stiff in their formation ideas, and while they're strong, they may not fit your personal playstyle, so be sure to experiment. And once again, just to reiterate that a little bit more, play how you want. It is your money, it is your game, it is your time. Play it how you want, play it how you're enjoying it. That is what's most important. A lot of the highest ranking players, the ones that do like all the tournaments and whatnots, they basically use the same teams and they don't really explore the rest of the cards. They don't even seem to think about them. They just kind of say, okay, in the preview they showed this card is the best one, or it has the highest stats, or it's going to be really good. I'm going to use it. Oh, I'm winning with it. It has to be the best card. And that's not always the case, and we'll see that in some examples as we go. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump in. Also, I should mention, in Gundam Arsenal Base, there are 2 variations of the rarest cards. The U rare, ultimate rare cards, they are the highest ranking rarity. They have 2 versions for mobile suits, and I guess now technically a pilot thanks to Kira. They have the basic ultra rare card, which is the mobile suit on our left here. This is like the full body shot of the mobile suit in an action stance. They're really cool. And then they have a parallel version. These are the more rare, more expensive versions of the same card. They have the same stats. It's purely for collector bragging rights. They are different only in artwork on the front. I personally think the full body artwork of the mobile suits is the coolest, but that's just me. Didn't mean to click there. Yeah, different artwork, same card. But anyway, let's jump in. So Season 1, we have the Gundam Barbatos. Season 1 Barbatos is considered one of the single best mobile suits in Season 1 for a good reason. It has a cost of 4 and it has nearly maxed out short range damage. It's been a beast since day 1, and a lot of players call it broken in kind of a joking manner because you don't really see stats and cost this low. I guess you do now, technically, thanks to the Freedom Gundam, but we'll get to that one when we get to it. But yeah, its damage is really good, its stats are really good, it has decent HP and decent mobility, so a lot of people use this with red attackers. You might occasionally see it on base attacker as well, but not so often. One downside to this card is that the Iron-Blooded Orphans link is a bit tricky to connect because outside of the Barbatos, the rest of the Iron-Blooded Orphans series isn't that strong, and they haven't had a U-Rare or P-Rare variations of their mobile suits added yet, though I do believe that they will be coming soon. Because Seed got Freedom and Justice and whatnot, so I assume Barbatos is going to get its next form, like Lupus, and maybe we'll see like Gushin Rebake Full City and whatnot, and so maybe they'll get there. Maybe next season. Well, you never know when they'll be coming. Whoa. Okay, next up, we have the Earth 3. Earth 3 was in Season 1 the most powerful mobile suit in the game. It was, just looking at its stats, it has crazy balanced stats. All of its stats are at or near 400. It has a cost of 6, which is decently high, but considering the other 6 cost units have similar stats, but like maybe 1 or 2 stats is lower than this, the Earth 3 is still quite a monster unit. You don't actually see it that often anymore, though. Its ability grants a small long-range buff to the units around it, which is actually not too bad, especially in the current environment of long-ranged units. But there's simply more versatile options in the game at this point. The Earth 3 is just kind of a straight attacker, and you get a lot more utility out of some of the other long-range mobile suits that have things like funnels and whatnot. But at the time, Earth 3 was a monster. Not so much now. You might occasionally see it, but maybe not so often. Nowadays, Earth 3, if you do see it, is commonly paired with a green defender, but just judging by its stats, it would be a pretty solid red attacker as well with a ranged pilot. Then there is the Justice Knight. This is an M rare, and it's kind of the start of a lot of issues in the game. The Justice Knight was one of the most used mobile suits throughout multiple seasons for good reason. It's only a cost of 5. It has huge HP of 520. It has pretty solid short range as well with 330. This thing was on every team in the game, and for a good reason. It has the ability called Induction. Induction makes all units around it focus their attacks on the unit that used the ability. This is basically the best tanking skill in the game. You can make blue attackers stop attacking the base and only attack this mobile suit, so it made for one of the best mobile suits in the game, and is commonly used with blue base attackers. Then you would deploy it, and then as it's making its way to the enemy's base, you activate its ability and it pulls off any base attackers or any red attackers that are attacking your bases. It just draws all the attention. You don't see Justice Knight that much anymore because there have been several nerfs to the induction having units. Things like they've had their their block chance. That's it. The block chance has been severely reduced because that was one of the problems with these units. They all had really good block chances as well. So they would get called out and basically take forever to get taken down. So anyway, the Justice Knight isn't used so often anymore, but you still might see it purely because of this induction ability and its pretty solid tanking stats. And it's only an M rare, so it wasn't too hard to get. Next, we have the Gusian Rebake Full City. This is the same reason as the Justice Knight above it. It has the induction ability, it only costs 3, and it's a R rare rarity card, so it's not hard to get. In Season 1, this card wasn't really used, but in Season 2, Melee got a huge buff, so you would see this card on every team paired up with the Justice Knight. And you could pair it up with a blue unit or a red unit. It was really, really good. Also, its SP attack hit in a circle around it, so it had a really good spread damage SP attack. So even if your opponent's base was being defended, you could just use the SP attack and do a lot of damage to the defending unit and the base. So Gusian Rebake Full City was a pretty solid, but kind of second tier induction unit in Season 1 and 2. Then there is the pilots, Mikazuki. Mika is also considered OP at the time. Not so much now, but yeah, at the time he was definitely considered OP. He only has a cost of 3. His stats are pretty high for a 3-cost base attacker. Yeah, he was really, really good. You would see him all over the place with either the Justice Knight or the Barbatos or the Gusian Rebake. Once again, though, the Iron-Blooded Orphans link and synergy with other series is the tricky part here, but even without it, he's pretty good. Up until more recently, you would have seen this quite often, but there's been more efficient blue units, blue pilots, I should say, added to the game, especially those that only cost 2. They really kind of dethroned him as the game has become a little base rushy at the moment. But he has a pretty solid pilot ability and gimmick, so pairing him with really interesting units like the promo Lagu is something that you still might see. Then there is Mei. She was definitely the defender of the game for quite a while. She has pretty decent stats, especially her long range stat, and her HP is pretty good, for only a cost of 2 as well. You don't really see defenders with this level of stats anymore, but we are starting to see them a bit more now that we have some newer ones that came in Link stage. Overall, she was just pretty solid and made a really good defender in general. And her ability to increase the SP attack damage made her pretty solid as well. She kind of bulldozed any blue units that got near her, but as the game has progressed, she just kind of fell out of fashion as more people would focus on getting the bigger links. And once Mei left the scene and the Earth 3 left the scene, her link was kind of harder to do. She was also commonly used with the Earth 3 or the Easy 8 when she's like paired up with another defender. And there's Andrew Waldfield. You will see Andy here several times, so he was the base attacker in Season 1, 2, and a little bit of 3. He has a cost of 1, so it made him especially good when paired with the Justice Knight. Yeah, there's not much to say about him. He has really good stats. He has a pretty solid ability as well. And even now, he has a pretty good link bonus with other quote-unquote older pilots. This card definitely fell off, but it was kind of the first start of Andrew's reign of terror, so to speak. You'll definitely see this card, or this character, several more times on this list. Anyway, moving on, let's jump into Season 2. In Season 2, it introduced the Zeta Gundam, one of the first high-cost mobile suits that got used regularly. It has a really high short-range attack and really, really high HP along with it. It was a really big highlight of Season 2 for a while. Its ability was called Surprise Attack. This lets the mobile suit switch to any place on the field from wherever it is on the map screen. You can just choose a location and it will basically dive bomb that area, land, and then it's deployed there. So it can change its location on a whim. Even though it has a high cost, it was commonly used with really low cost pilots, especially melee pilots. Sadly, this ability, Surprise Attack, was dialed down a bit, and just in general, the Zeta kind of fell off pretty quickly. A lot of people just I don't know, a lot of people just went for lower cost efficiency instead of just stacking a really big high damage unit like the Zeta. Nowadays, its stats of only 390 are not great anymore, but I do think there's some life in its existence. I think the Zeta Gundam isn't terrible, but it definitely was went from the highlight of the season, and then as things progressed, it kind of fell off. Then there is the Easy 8. The Easy 8 began as a dark horse, whereas everyone was focused on the Zeta Gundam. The Easy 8 kind of was really overlooked for quite a while. And then people started taking notice of it when they started combining it and its ability to summon a minion. The damage really piled on very quickly, and a lot of people noticed that. So let's see what zoom we can do. Yeah, so the Easy 8 became a really sought after card, especially on defense, particularly when paired in a 2 defense setup team, because the Easy 8 is pretty slow with a mobility of only 150, but it has really good solid attack damage. It has pretty solid HP as well. Its SB attack is only a cost of 2, and it does a lot of damage. So the Easy 8 was a primo choice card in Season 2, and you still actually see the Easy 8 quite a lot. It's most often used on defense, but you do occasionally see it on as a red attacker. Another reason that the Easy 8 was very popular is because the 8th MS team link bonus is really good, and it's very easy to get because the 8th MS team characters are very good. So, moving on to a related character, Shiro Amada. Shiro is OP. Shiro is great. Shiro is, once again, kind of a dark horse. A lot of people ignored him at first. Shiro became one of the still most expensive cards from Season 2. A lot of people still desire this card. If you came late to the game, this is the card to find. Shiro is a really, really solid, not even solid, he's very good at long range. He gets a long range attack buff for 40 seconds. When he gets low on HP, he gets 360 HP. He has 360 attack as well. His cost is 5. You pair him with something really strong with long range. He's consistently appearing these days. Like, if you don't know what pilot to use with your newfound long range unit like the Freedom, slap Shiro in there and watch him rip people apart. He's basically one of the best, if not the best, long-range pilot. Nowadays, you'll see him paired up with high damage long-range units like the Sazabi, Zamel, Freedom, and so on. The extra cost of pairing him with a high-cost mobile suit is definitely considered worth it. Shiro is your long-range attacker of choice, trust me. And then if Shiro was the OP long-range unit, Norris is the OP melee unit. Norris only has a cost of 2, and he pairs with an awesome ability where he gets a damage buff on deployment. This makes Norris one of the best cost performance mobile suit pilots in the game. He has a cost of only 2, his damage and HP is 250. If you pair him with any high level melee unit, you're gonna watch him just melt things. He is considered one of the best, if not the best, melee pilot in the game. He is starting to get some competition, but you would often see him paired with things like Barbatos, the Darla Blade, Shenlong, Master Gundam, and so on. He's, like I said, he's getting a bit of competition now, but you'll still see him. Another 8th MS team unit is Terry. Like Mei, he's only a 2-cost defender, and he's still pretty commonly used. He has a pretty solid ability where he gets a damage buff when he has a lock-on with a partner. If he's locked on the same unit as a friendly mobile suit, he gets a damage buff. And then like I said, his stats are pretty good. Long range of 250, HP 190, that's pretty acceptable. He's really good on a 2 defense team or on a team that is going for the 8th MS team link bonus. You'll see Terry quite a lot even now. He works really well with long range units, but remember, his short range is 160, so he actually can work with short range as well, but that's a bit of a gimmick. but you'll definitely see Terry around here, so keep an eye out for him. Season 3, the list is going to get a bit out of order from here. So in Season 3, Andy got another card. Season 3, Andrew Waldfeld. He is an M rare, but he is a red variant this time. And look at his cost. His cost is only 2, and he's a long-ranged attacker. Andrew is one of the pilots that kind of pairs really well, especially in Season 2 and 3, or Season 3 especially, with Shiro, because they can be 2 long-range attackers. You don't see him that often, but you do see him occasionally with people who are very cost conscientious, especially with now paired with like the Freedom, or when I used him, I paired him with the Buster Gundam, because the Buster was like a 6 cost, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to put Andy on it and get the seed bonus. He's pretty solid, and he makes a really good pairing with really strong, high-level, high-cost mobile suits. He makes a pretty solid secondary red attacker for teams that are going for 2 or 3 attackers. Maybe even 4 attackers. Duo. Duo was the start of the low-cost based attacker boom. This is when you start seeing teams of 2 or 3 base attackers, which is pretty nuts. Duo launched with a cost of 2, which puts him right on the map as a desirable pilot. His mobility is 240 and his short range attack is 290. And remember, for blue attackers, you don't really need high HP, but you do want good mobility and good damage. So it made Duo basically the best base attacker pilot in the game at the time when he started. His ability is really good. It reduces the repair time by a certain amount. So this was about 5 or 6 seconds, and now it's been reduced to about 3. So the ability itself got a nerf, which is a bit sad, but for good reason. A lot of people were just launching units with Duo back to back to back to back. So that's why he got nerfed. But if you're going for the the wing link bonus, Duo is a very solid choice to get you started in that. And for all of the American Gundam fans out there, you'll be happy to know that Death Scythe is also super desirable. It has a cost of 3, and it has really solid stats to back it up, especially high mobility. Geez. Like Duo, Death Scythe was a major base attacker, and it kind of remains as such. Its ability is to turn invisible for 20 seconds until it is hit or it activates an SP attack. It's still a useful gimmick, and the only way you can really see the invisible unit is to like tap the map to zoom out the game view and look for like the dust trail of the moving mobile suit. It's not exactly difficult to counter, it's just annoying. That's all. It's still fairly common to see the Death Scythe show up, especially this version, but you don't see it that much anymore, because remember, Duo got nerfed, but the Death Scythe does have a circular SP attack, and it has pretty solid stats all over, so it's not a bad mobile suit. You usually see it on base attack, but you can also use it on defense as well. The invisibility on defense is pretty solid, especially with melee defenders. I'm gonna take a quick drink. I've been talking. Okay, next up we have the Shenlong Gundam. Shenlong is one of the best melee units in the game, bar none. It's got really, really good stats. Even for its fairly high cost of 7, it's got 290 mobility, it's got 340 long range attack, which is pretty good no matter which way you shake it. It has 490 attack and 530 HP. This thing is a truck, and it kind of just mows over things. And its ability is a single hit strike, and it does really solid damage. It doesn't have any extra added effects like a stun or anything, but in terms of just raw power, Shenlong was definitely the go-to for quite a while. The cost of 7 can be kind of big depending on pairing, but you'll usually see it with pilots like Norris, who are only a cost of 2. That way you can get this thing out in the field for a cost of 9. Long range has been on the come up, so Shenlong isn't commonly seen anymore because a lot of people are preferring to go for long range these days. But once again, the game's balance fluctuates quite a lot, so maybe long range will get another nerf, maybe melee units will get another buff, who knows. But if you want a solid melee unit from Wing, Shenlong is definitely where you want to go. Then there is Wu Fei. Wu Fei isn't very prominent, but I think he's worth highlighting. His cost is only 5, and he features really high stats for a 5 cost unit. He makes one of the best melee hitters in the game because he has really high damage, but the sad rise of long range units kind of made Wu Fei fade out pretty quickly. Also, his card art is really cool, it has trays in the reflection. But you'll still see him paired up with powerful melee units for some really high damage, like the Shenlong. They just kind of go for this really high cost unit. And Wu Fei just like pairs, he scales very well. You'll often see him, like I said, paired with really high damage units like Shenlong, Shining and Master, Darly Blade, or Justice. Then there is the Wing. You notice in Season 3, the Wing series is actually very good. They're actually all very good. The entire Wing series of pilots and mobile suits is very good. The Wing is a long-range monster. You see it in every season, and you actually see all of its variations pretty commonly too. It's a high damage per hit, and it has the surprise attack ability, meaning it can dive bomb an area. Even in its U form, like I'm highlighting here, it also has several strong promotion versions also, which have lower costs but pretty similar stats. A little bit of a stat drop off, but it can be worth highlighting or using those promotion versions if you can find them. The SP attack as well pierces enemies, so anything behind it is going to get hit as well. This can be used for attacking an enemy defender while they're kind of got a base in between them or something, and you'll hit the base too, so it's pretty good. You usually see the Wing in its various variations used with Shiro, Soleta, Quest, Lock-On's promo version, which we will talk about, which is a defender, and more. Basically anyone that can utilize its high long-range damage on red or green defense is considered choice for the Wing Gundam and its variations. And then there is Hero. Hero is a solid long-range pilot and he can dish out the damage. Thankfully, essentially all of the Wing units and pilots are solid, like I said, and that's actually pretty rare in this game. I think Wing is the only one that has like every card that's actually pretty good, no matter what you do with them. That said, Hero is a bit of an odd duck at the moment because there's Hero, and then there's the promotion version of Hero, and you'll notice they have somewhat similar stats, and a lot of people consider the 3-cost Christmas promotion Hero to be more worth it than the 4-cost version, because Hero gets a stat buff of 40 seconds for the promotion version. Even though he has lower stats in general, he has higher mobility, so, and his HP is pretty similar, so a lot of people consider it worth it to take the hit in terms of damage for the cost performance of the promotion version. So you might not see this one very much, but you'll probably see this one. But yeah, for efficiency's sake, you'll see the Christmas version. But yeah, no matter which hero you use, you'll do good work. Then there's Ko Iraki. He was a really good defender when he was added, but he kind of fell off pretty quickly. The 0083 link bonus isn't quite as popular anymore, but for anyone wanting to use the GPO 1 or 2, he makes a really natural fit with the team, and he doesn't really have any downsides. His stats are good, his cost is fine, he has a pretty solid ability. He's really, really good. You saw him quite a lot in Season 3, and then he just kind of fell off a bit. The GPO 1 is similar to its pilot Ko. It has really good stats and an interesting ability where it can make whatever it's locked onto, any allied units around it will focus that target as well for 20 seconds or until it dies. It only has a 4 cost as well, and its stats are fairly good. They're really balanced and solid. Efficiency wise, it makes a really good defender, but it also works as an attacker too. You occasionally see it, but you don't see it that much anymore. Sadly, Stardust Memory kind of fell off in Season 4. Then there is the Gundam. The Gundam took its sweet time getting a U-Rare variant and didn't get one until Season 3. And it's a 7-cost unit, but it has really good stats all over. Like, its stats are 370, 450, 400. You can use this thing in any position, and it's really good. Its ability as well is like a barrage ability where it shoots in a spread, so it's really nice. It has really high stats and a really high cost to go along with it, but like I said, you can pair it with something like Shiro for making a super unit, or you can pair it with something lower cost like Quests, or one of the other lower cost long range pilots like Andrew. Yeah, it's a really good unit. You don't see it too often because the OG Gundam Link is a little bit lackluster, because there's this unit which is great, and then there's everything else which is like good or so-so. It's often overlooked, but if you see it, know that you're going to get hurt. And you might have been wondering where the 00 units are. 00 was actually in the previous season, in Season 2, and no one really uses them. Sadly, 00 has really not bad stats, they're just very all over the place, and they don't really mesh very well. But in Season 3, Exia got a new version in terms of card type. It got an M-Rare version, which is considered better than the U-Rare variant from the previous season, which has higher stats overall. But this M-Rare version is only a cost of 4. It has the Trans Am ability. It has really high mobility, really high melee damage. So a lot of people just consider this one the better of the 00 units to use. Like I said, sadly, 00's stats and link is all over the place, so you don't really see many people use 00 units, but through the use of promotion cards, you can get somewhat better 00 stats and links. But yeah, you're unlikely to see that Exia, but it's worth highlighting, I think. And then there is GPO2. Oh my gosh, GPO2 was the most expensive, most sought after card of Season 3. It was a melee focused tyrant, basically. It has the induction ability as well, and it could use it in its full glory. It was actually usually paired with a red attacker, especially Norris. As you can see, its stats, its HP is almost maxed out, its short range is really good, and its mobility is surprisingly high for how big it is. But it doesn't have a long range attack, so it really was just a tank. You would see this thing all the time, but you don't see it very often anymore because there was a big shift away from the induction ability. But remember, this card is still very good, and you might occasionally come across it. One big downside to the card is its SP ability is a cost of 4. It is the nuclear bomb that it is famous for. It hits in a big damage area. It does damage to friendly units as well, a little bit. But in general, a lot of people think the SP attack isn't really worth using because it takes a long time to charge up, and it's a bit difficult to hit it perfectly because this is a speed of 4, so the meter fills up very quickly. Either way, it's a really solid unit, if not a bit overvalued at the time. Still, it's useful, and you might occasionally see it. It is an induction unit, so be aware of that. But you'll still see people use it on red attack just to, have a really strong melee unit on the field. But I think its versatility is a bit limited, so. Then there's heavy arms. This is a bit of a personal preference, but I think the heavy arms was really overlooked. A lot of people are starting to take notice of it and say, like, holy crap, this thing is actually pretty strong. It has a 5 cost and really high long-range attack of 530. And it makes use of the ability Fire All Bullets. It is an ability that fires basically a spread of all of its long-range ability. I don't know how to explain it. It shoots basically every piece of ammo and weapon it has for its main unit or its main weapon, and then after that it'll switch to only using its sub-weapon. That is a big downside to this unit because its short range is only 140 compared to its other damage, which is really high on its long range. But Fire All Bullets has become one of the abilities of the game, and that really makes Heavy Arms a desirable unit, especially if you're going for that wing link bonus, which is pretty good. Yeah, the knife is pretty terrible for after you use the bullets, but seriously, Heavy Arms really piles on the damage, and it's a really solid unit worth trying out. I've seen it on defense more recently, but even on red attack, like I use it for, is really good, especially with people like Shiro. So it's one of those units you should definitely keep your eye on if it gets deployed. Season 4. Before we jump in, let's take another sip. Okay, Ariel. Ariel was a solid unit in Season 4. You didn't really see it that much because the Witch from Mercury link bonus was a bit awkward to complete. Still, the Ariel has really high stats all over the place, so it made it a really good unit. And its ability of it has all range, and it also has actually it doesn't have all range. That's a different version that has it. It has a striking attack that is really good, but also it has a cost of 6, so its stats are well worth the cost, and it's a really good ranged attacker. It's kind of surprising you don't see it so often, but because Witch from Mercury is a popular series and it's new, it's pretty expensive. It's a pretty expensive card. But yeah, it's not weak in any way, so if you see one coming, be aware that it's going to be pretty good. It's maybe not going to be the best card on the field, but it's going to be pretty solid. Then there is Soletta Mercury, just like the Ariel, because Soletta is a popular character and a new character. Her card is very expensive. It's like 2,000 yen. It's really ridiculous. Similarly, she's overlooked, just like the Ariel Gundam. But she's really good. She has very solid stats. She has really high long range. Her cost is only 3, so she's really good. But if you want to make a Witch from Mercury team, which is a bit awkward, like I say, to complete, she's a really good red attacking pilot. She's not exactly a pushover, but there are better pilots than her. And her ability is the same as Duo's, where she can reduce the repair time. But once again, that ability got nerfed right before her release, so you don't see her often, but you'll sometimes see her paired with high-cost ranged units like the Sazabi and whatnot, which we will get to. Then we have Guinea's Jagged Doga. This is probably the Norris of mobile suits. You'll see this thing everywhere. You'll still see it. It is the meta's meta. It has a cost of 2. It has pretty high stats, like 300. Good mobility of 200. This thing is a powerhouse on any position. You'll often see it used on blue units because it is a cost of 2. And we'll get to the blue units after this, but it's a pretty solid base attacker all around because it has the all range ability. All range attacks everything around it in a spread. It does like infrequent little pot shots as it's attacking its other main targets. All range is the thing of Season 4, so it's pretty low cost. It has good stats. This is basically one of those mobile suits that if you want to win, this is your meta choice right here. Then there's Guinea. Just like his mobile suit, he has above average stats even for his low cost. And he also has the added bonus of being able to complete or help complete the Char's counterattack link bonus. The Char's counterattack link bonus is really good because Char's counterattack units are very good. So Guinea really reminded people what the base format of this game was. The example when this game was in pre-release was 1 defender, 2 base attackers, 2 attackers. A lot of people didn't use that until Guinea showed up, and then they were like, oh yes, 2 base attackers. He's basically always paired with another low-cost ranged attacker. This is why his titular mobile suit, or not titular, I guess his paired cannon mobile suit is the go-to for him. Or the Zaku Amazing. You'll usually see them paired together. And then there is the new Gundam. The new Gundam is probably the second best mobile suit in the game at the moment. It has high damage, really solid SP attack, and it only costs 5. It's surprisingly strong. It's just one of those surprisingly strong units. It makes it really good overall, and it's kind of a monster to deal with. And once again, it has the all-range ability, so it's going to be attacking anything around it while it's attacking its main target. You'll be hard-pressed to find something as good as this one for filling multiple roles across the board, with no real downsides. When I say that, you'll commonly see it on defense, because it makes a great defender, it has really high speed and really high damage, and really high HP for the cost of 5. It's perfectly fit for defending. You'll see it on red attack as well, because it has, once again, perfect stats for that. And you'll see it sometimes on base attack, but that's kind of more of a gimmick. But once again, perfect stats for that as well. Then there is the Sazabi. The Sazabi is probably the 3rd or 4th best. The Sazabi edges out the new Gundam in terms of damage, but its cost is 1 cost more than it. You'll always see this paired with red attacking pilots, especially Shiro. Shiro is the monster pilot who's been waiting for this mobile suit. You don't see Char with him because Char is a base attacker, so sorry, you're not going to see him paired with it. This thing is really, really tanky. It has good short range attack as well if it has to use its melee. Its mobility is pretty solid too. You'll see this thing with Shiro and it shreds everything dumb enough to fight it. It's basically one of the best units in the game. Yeah, this thing is a brute force monster. If you want to pile on some damage, get a Sazabi. Then there is the Shining Gundam. Shining Gundam is one I was hoping be better, especially with, but it's kind of not. G Gundam is a bit weird at the moment. Its link bonus isn't great. Its pilots aren't great. The paired with it, and that said, the mobile suit Shining Gundam is actually pretty okay. It has really good HP and it has great attack as well. So you do see it sometimes, but you kind of have to dedicate to a strategy to using this one. And its ability is pretty interesting. It has an attack that does more damage as its HP goes down. This attack is a bit of a gimmick, but if you time it right, you can really surprise someone by taking them out with a really big hit. One thing I'm really happy to say though is in Link Stage Season 1, the melee ability charge time after you activate has been greatly reduced. So that makes this unit a lot more viable. Sadly, like I said, a lot of the pilots are a hit or miss, and a lot of people kind of wrote the Shining Gundam off. And I was going to mention the Master Gundam for the similar reason. It's a cost of 7, has really high melee stats, but it's kind of considered a gimmick when you have the Sazabi instead. Okay, so we're going to jump into Link Stage Season 1. Link Stage Season 1 is the current season. And a lot of things are getting mixed up in this season, so some of these cards are probably going to fall off eventually, but these are some of the highlights that players are talking about at the moment. So first up, we have Zeta Gundam in the M Rare variant from Link Stage Season 1. This isn't from Gundam Zeta for its Link bonus, it is Double Zeta. That is the difference here. This is the Double Zeta appearance of it. This mobile suit is considered great because it has a cost of 3, but it has really high long range and HP. Also, its cost isn't too bad either for its ability, that is. This is a pretty beefy unit, and you see it paired often with blue units, or blue unit base attackers, sorry. Because its stats are very good and its cost is low, that's why you'll see it. And you'll see it because of Ru Luca. Just like this one, its cost is very low, so you'll see them paired together. You'll see her on base attack very often these days. She is like the de facto base attacker for Link Stage. You'll see her paired with Guinea, or you'll see her paired with Riccardo Fellini. She's really good if you missed out Season 4 and you're missing like Guinea and the promotion event for Riccardo Fellini. Ru is solid, she's great. Then there is Haman, finally. Haman has been in previous seasons as a long-range attacker and then as a base attacker, and she was kind of considered not cost efficient. Now her double Zeta variation is considered great. You will see her quite a lot, and I'm very happy because it has her best outfit, in my opinion. She is a melee attacker, and that makes her a really good replacement for characters like Norris if you don't have Norris. A lot of her other cards are, like I said, subpar, but this low-cost M-Rare is considered perfect. This is the Hamancon you want to get. And for a lot of team formations, this is basically one of the melee attackers to have and use. This makes her really well paired with high-cost units like the Justice or some of the other really high-cost melee units like Shenlong and whatnot. Then there is the Double Zeta. The Double Zeta is a big boy with really balanced stats. It is that card of the season. While its SP cost is 3, it is a bit of a downside because usually people want a lower SP attack, but it's a solid pick for any position thanks to its really balanced stats. Because its main weapon is a rifle, pairing it with a long-range pilot is best, but if you can manipulate it into a melee fit as well, it'll be pretty good. Pilots with really balanced stats like Atherin would be really good with this, or Judo, its actual pilot. And its ability to summon a minion is pretty decent too. Honestly, not many people use this Double Zeta variant because there is a promo Double Zeta as well, and a lot of people are using that one instead because it's a cost of 4. But I think if you want to make this one your big unit of your team, I don't think you can go wrong with it really. Then there is Atherin, my boy. He finally gets his time to shine. He is a melee monster. He has a cost of only 3, he has a really good ability. He's basically Shiro in a melee variation. And the seed link this season is also very, very good as well. This makes Atherin a great addition to any squad. I've even seen Atherin paired with like the Double Zeta for like long range units and the Freedom, because he basically fits any role with his cost of 3 and pretty solid stats. Atherin is a really solid go-to. Can't recommend him enough. Then there is the Full Armor Gundam. Full Armor actually takes the crown as the highest single cost unit in Link Stage. There is one other unit that costs more than it, and it is the... what is it? The Psycho Gundam. Sorry, I was going to say Psycho Zaka. It's the Psycho Gundam. That costs 13. This costs 8. And its stats are considered good enough to be worth the wait because it has HP of 600, it has really balanced long-range and short-range attack. So it has really good mobility as well. Its cost is pretty high, but once again, if you pair it with a low-cost pilot, I think you'll be doing quite well. And its SP attack is only 2, so that's really good as well. It's a bit of a dark horse at the moment, and a lot of people think things like the Sazabi might be more cost-efficient, but I think this is going to be one of those mobile suits that will show up in like a tournament or something, or just like someone really likes using it, and it might surprise people. And then there is the surprise of the season, Miguel's Jin. This 2-cost attacker is definitely the surprise of season 2. It's a low cost with pretty nice stats, but that doesn't really mean anything. But where people are using it is the ability. It summons a minion, but this minion is a bit different because it has a rocket launcher. And it's like, well, so what? It has a rocket launcher. The rocket launcher deals significant amounts of damage per hit, and it allows this unit to clear out bases, especially against defenders, all by itself. It's really crazy. Because units don't priority target the minions that get summoned, the added minion that is just shooting rockets does so much damage. It does something like almost 20% damage per hit. It's really quite overpowered, and I think this thing is going to get a super nerf at some point. But even against stronger defenders, it can take out easily other defenders. You usually see it used as a blue base attacker for this reason. It'll get in range of the base, they'll try to defend against it, they'll summon the minion, and the minion will take care of the defender. You don't even need to pair it with like an actual red attacker to attack the defender. this thing will do it all on its own, and it's only a cost of 2. It's getting a nerf. It's got to get a nerf soon. It's got to get a nerf. Then there's Pull's Cubile. I'm going to say Pull because I don't think Puru is the common pronunciation anymore. Like the Jagged Doga, this Cubile is often seen attacking bases. It's solid all over, and you even see this thing on defense now as well. I've been seeing a lot of people use this on defense too. It's essentially a second Jagged Doga, and it's really just really good. It has good HP and really good mobility and damage, and it has the spread ability, and it has a good... Geez, this thing is just good. It's just good. You might see this most often on base attack, but you might also see it on defense, so be aware of that. And then there's LPO Pool. She is the 2-cost defender of the season. She is really, really good. Just like the other 2-cost defenders, she's considered really, really worth it. And her stats are very good for only being 2 costs. So she's kind of the defender's efficiency monster, especially if you want to hit that double Zeta link. I think you can hit the double Zeta link without using her, but I think she's a good option if you want to use double Zeta defender. And then there is my personal favorite, the Justice Gundam. Justice is great, and I'm happy that it's great. It was kind of overshadowed by the Freedom at first, and then a lot of people have been starting to use it, especially with Haman. A lot of people are like, oh my god, the Justice is the card. So it has really good stats, and it only has a cost of 5. It's got great mobility, great short range, and great HP. Also, its ability only costs 3, and it stuns. This makes Justice Gundam one of the most powerful melee units in the game, if not the most powerful at the moment. In terms of cost efficiency and versatility, it's great. You'll see it paired with melee attackers like Atherin, Norris, or Haman. Especially Atherin and Haman. I think those are the 2 most common now. It really just shreds across the map, and it tears enemies to pieces. It's great. It really caught up or shot up the tier list as people started playing it and they got it. And they're like, oh, I'm just going to try out Justice. Oh my god, Justice is great. It went from like a day 1, oh, this card's only worth like 1,000 yen, to being worth like 4,000 yen. A lot of people want it, so. And then Kira, like Atherin, he finally gets his time to shine. Kira and Atherin are in Season 1, and their cards are not very good. They're really high cost in Season 1, and they're not considered worth it. Season 1 Link Stage, they got their upgrades. Kira is a cost of 3, he's a defender, and he is the beast of defending at the moment. He is the defender to use. He's balanced, he has high stats, he has good ability. He fits basically any long-range mobile suit, especially with the new or the Zamel, which is something I should mention as well. He can zoom between bases because of his high base stats, and yeah, Kira is your go-to defender for Link Stage. Then there is the Freedom itself. If the new is the second best unit in the game, the Freedom is number 1. The Freedom is seriously ridiculous. It is the most expensive card in the game. Even its normal variant is like 9,000 yen, and its parallel version is like well over that. It's insane. It's easily identified and very correctly as the most powerful unit in Season 1 of Link Stage. It fits into any position. It's got a cost of only 6. Its long range stat is 560, has high mobility, high melee, high HP. And the biggest reason it's considered the best is its special ability. Its special ability has a massive spread. It hits in a huge area, does lots of damage, and so does its SP attack, which is only a cost of 2. The Freedom is basically considered broken. It is broken tier all over again. You'll see the Freedom on red attackers, especially Shiro. You sometimes even see it with Atherin. You can see it with all kinds of characters. It just fits in every situation. It's so strong, and it's similar to the Strike, ironically, where it shoots in a fan, but the fan here is just way bigger. This thing is kind of a steal for for what it is. It's the most expensive card in the game for a reason. It is the meta card. If you don't have it, good luck trying to beat it. Grab a Freedom if you have it. If you can get one, you have a few more months of availability to get it. We'll see if it gets replaced in subsequent seasons. We'll see if it gets a nerf. It's hard to nerf it because this spread is kind of considered the big reason why it's the best card in the game. And this spread is printed on the card, so you can't really narrow it down anymore without reprinting the card, which would be a big hassle because you have to recall the card, which I don't think they would want to do. But maybe they can reduce its damage. Maybe. Anyway, that is Link Stage cards. Once again, I think there are more cards especially to talk about, but we're going to get towards the end here. So I'm going to give the Arsenal Rare and promos their own section because these are not readily available, obviously, because they're promotions. But you can still find them because a lot of people... You can still find them in card shops and they're mostly not too expensive. And it's the same thing with Arsenal Rares. Arsenal Rares also come out of the machine, but they are season based. So once their season finished, the Arsenal Rare cards are moved out of the rotation. So once they get out of rotation, you're probably not going to be able to get them. But they're mostly for collectors' reasons because a lot of the Arsenal Rares aren't great, but there are some highlights that we should talk about. So the first up is Riccardo Fellini. This is his promotion version. He's considered the best base attacker in the game. Ricky is only a cost of 2, and he has weirdly high stats, and that's what makes him so good. And his link bonus really pairs with people like Andrew or Norris as well. He's solid all over, and yeah, he's just a great choice. You'll see Riccardo quite often, I'm sure, even now. He makes a really good base attacker, especially because of his ability, which gives him better stats. Then there is Lock-On Stratos from the Winter event. Lock-On was a 4-cost defender in the season he debuted in, and no one used him. Everyone made fun of him because his stats weren't good. He had a really good long-range attack, and that's it. But he didn't have anything else to back it up. Lock-On here is considered very good because he has the same ability as Terry, sorry. So that makes him a really, really desirable alternate for Terry, especially if you want to go for a double O bonus or one of his other bonus abilities. He's really good. He's a pretty solid choice for a defender. So if you see Lock-On defense, it is this one. Boy oh boy, the Zamel. This is probably one of the most surprising additions to the game in general. This grunt does a ton of damage for what it lacks in speed. It has a 520 long-range stat and it has lots of HP to go along with it. The Zamel pairs really well on defense or on offense of any type. As long as the pilot is a long-range variant, the Zamel will freaking do work. Its ability is a big artillery strike on a selected location. This does a lot of attack and it can really surprise people for how much damage it does. Yeah, you can surprise people by cutting them off, by targeting the area ahead of them. It's just a really solid unit. It's, like I said, it's kind of the surprise of the season, of the game, because this mobile suit is like in the franchise for like 2 seconds. So a lot of people are surprised at how strong this thing is. The Zamel is one of the few worthy Arsenal Rare cards, I would say. Then there is Bob, the Zamel pilot, seemingly a nobody. Nobody saw this guy coming. He has really good stats. He has a 310 long range and 370 HP. He basically has no long range, or short range, sorry, and no mobility. But if you pair him with something strong like the Sazabi, he does work. Or the Freedom, now that I think about it. There might be more linkable pilots to choose from, but Bob is really useful on many teams, and he's never really a random choice. Then there is Quest. Quest is an awesome 1-cost ranged pilot. You would really see her with really high-cost long-range units. And she works really well with the Char's counterattack link bonus, because because of that, you'll see her paired with the Sazabi, you'll see her paired with her own Jagged Doga sometimes. You'll see her paired with a new Gundam. Yeah, any high-cost, long-range unit works really well with Miss Quest, and her artwork is pretty cool. She has, what's her name? Gigi. She has Gigi in the mirror. That's pretty neat. And then we have Andrew one more time for his tournament promotion card. This is probably one of the hardest cards to get now, maybe. You don't see him used very often anymore, but he is still a threat. He has a cost of 3, he has a really good ability, and his stats are very good. He has high mobility and high short range to pair along with it. For a cost of 3, you'll see him quite often as a melee attacker. Having one around is pretty worth it, but I don't think he's super expensive anymore, maybe like 1,000 yen. But if you're looking to collect all the promotion cards, this might be one of the more expensive ones. The Zaku Amazing, the Build Fires promo. This is very good and a lot of people still use it. It has a cost of 4 and it comes piled with the Fire All Bullets ability. And thankfully, its short range isn't so bad either. So if you pair it with a low cost blue unit like Ricardo or Guinea or even Andrew, it has really good cost performance, and it also makes a threat on attacking as well on a red unit. But even after its ability is used, its damage is pretty solid, so that makes the Zaku Amazing a really common choice on a lot of teams. And then there is the Lagu promo. This is also one of those cards that was completely ignored because it's not a Gundam, it's a Lagu. Why would anyone use it? Well, 350 mobility is why. When you pair this thing, and a cost of 2, when you pair this thing with a blue unit, it literally just zooms across the field. It could clear the distance between bases basically in one dash, and a lot of people were taken surprised by it at a tournament. And then this thing's price exploded. Everyone wanted it. Everyone's like, oh my god, I wasn't paying attention to this thing. I had one, but I gave it away type situations. I actually had 2 of these, and I sold one before the tournament started. And then after the tournament, a lot of people were like, oh my god, this thing's amazing, and the price shot up for it. It's a bit of a gimmick because it is fast, but if you can cover it well, you can use this as a base attacker. There's just a lot more utility with like the all range base attackers like the Jagged Doga and whatnot, but the Lagu is a pretty interesting and fun card to use just because of how fast it is. And then at the end, I have some basic team ideas that I've seen people using. Stuff like Kira in the Zamel, we have Haman in the Justice, we have Andrew in the Freedom, Ricardo in the Zaku Amazing, and Rue in the Pulls Cubile. And I have a few others, but this is like an unfinished list, so I'm just not gonna skip through it. And then that's basically all I really wanted to say. That's a lot of units, and there are more cards to talk about, and I'm going to add them as time goes on to this guide. But like I said, I'm going to link this guide into this video so you can look through it yourself. This is basically just me talking through it. A lot of the details are probably better in the guide, but that's about it. So once again, these are kind of just the cream of the crop cards. You won't see all of them in every situation, but if you do see them, hopefully that gives you a little bit of information of why you're seeing it and why someone's using it. But also remember, there are variations of every card, so yeah, you might have to check and see which one is getting used against you. But also remember, even the top ranked players sometimes miss the potential of these cards, and it makes their initial day one line in the sand of what's best and what's not the best. It makes them kind of have to eat their hat sometimes. So keep that in mind, and remember to just use the cards that you like, use the units that you like, use the units that you're interested in. But if you have any questions, leave me a message here on YouTube or on TikTok or wherever I post this. And hopefully, if you have any questions, you can just leave me a message and I can add some addendums or information to the guide. But anyway, that is all for this Gundam Arsenal Base guide. It was very long. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this took an hour. Oh my god. I'm going to upload this anyway because it's just a stream, so. Anyway, good night. Good game. Like, subscribe. Give me all the information that you want to know about.